be able to see. And it's
All
finally
right.
happening.
It's
Live! Yay!
working.
Perseverance is the name of the game. It's kind of like works out perfectly, actually. Hello, anyone who is there joining us, whether you are live or replay. Callie and I spent the last 25 minutes troubleshooting tech, and we stayed with it. We persevered through adversity, which is kind of perfect because that is a lot of what we'll be talking about with my amazing guest, former client, someone I consider a friend, Callie. I'm so happy to host you. So my guest today is Callie Strofe, the founder of Resilient Wellness Coaching. And I'm Amber Sweener. I'm a transformational coach. And you're going to learn more about both of us here today. So Callie, if you're going to share a little bit about who you are, how you are today.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. Technical difficulties. It's the age we live in. So my name is Callie Strofe. I'm the founder of Resilient Wellness. I've worked with Amber. I've known Amber actually for several years. I worked with her in my previous business as well. So this has been awesome. It's kind of come full circle. Right now, I am currently located in the Boston area, and I very recently moved from the Midwest, and I'm still actually unpacking in my new place. So it's just been a whirlwind of a week, but I'm very happy to be here today.
There's been a lot of moving happening, and that's just, and that's actually not surprising that I have found, and we'll get into that. Sometimes once we start opening the door and stepping into what's more aligned, it's amazing how all the pieces start shifting. So why don't we start there? And by the way, we do have some people popping in and out, and welcome. Some of them are on platforms where they can't ask questions, but some of them are. So I'll monitor those comments and welcome anyone who's here live or on the replay. We'd love to hear from you in the chat if you're on a platform where you can engage with us. So why don't you share, let's go back to about a year ago this time, and you were putting motions together to move your business forward. But why don't you talk about just where you were at that point when you knew you were meant to keep going this direction in the work you're doing around coaching people and speaking. But what did you notice that started getting present that helped you realize that you were ready to be committed in a bigger way? Because I think that's a huge spot that people have an idea, but how do you actually make the thing come to life?
Yeah. So in the fall of 2021, an opportunity presented itself, and I was like, hey, I want to talk about these things that I'm interested in. And I actually did a WFTDA virtual incubator session and presented on some topics related to mental health and resilience that I had just learned myself, and I'd found through different searches and things online and reading different books and doing all of this, and some from my own. I was trained as a mental health counselor and as a social worker. So some of my own background and kind of morphing into things that I needed. And so I just spoke to that. I spoke to what I knew, and it was really well received. And I started getting more invitations to speak to more people, more places, organizations, businesses, hold virtual little webinars and trainings and things like that. And I was like, oh, maybe this is a real thing. And that reality, I let myself believe it for the first time. I had first heard of life coaching, I want to say 20 years ago, not to age myself too much.
Yeah, but it has been around for a while.
Yeah. When I was in undergrad, there was a TV show where a daytime TV thing, and I turned it on and there was a life coach there, and I never heard of it. It was maybe the early days of the internet, or I just grew up rurally in the country and didn't have much internet access. But I had never heard of this before. So I started asking around and looking anywhere I could find it. And most of the feedback I got was, well, you're in college, so you should continue your degree. This is important. But I was like, this resonates so close. This is what I want to do. This is how I want to work with people and how I want to really understand people in a way where you have their history. In therapy, you really focus on what has happened, how did you get here? And coaching is very future focused. So it's really empowering and let's understand who we are, maybe where we came from, but also how do we continue to move forward in a really powerful and intentional way. because everybody has these inner strengths and coping mechanisms and all of this amazing potential inside of them. And it's essentially coaching is kind of bringing all of that out and letting it blossom and helping people achieve their goals and move forward in the way that is really serving them. So everybody was kind of like, bah, but you're getting a degree. Degrees are professional. Degrees are legit. The degrees are what you should spend thousands of dollars to do. And I don't regret my degree because I learned a ton. But I also, even in the moment, knew it wasn't exactly aligned with what I wanted to do. And so I kept trying to force it to fit. I looked at jobs, I looked online, I tried different internships, I tried all these different things. And I actually gave up for a long time. And I was like, all right, I'm not doing counseling, not doing therapy, not working with people in that way. And pursued photography as a way to work with people and work with like body image type stuff and things there. And so that was great, but like I kept trying to force this thing. And then a lot of stuff happened. I actually had some pretty traumatic things happen in my life where it really tested my own individual like mental health and strength to get through trauma. I had 2 miscarriages very, very close together. And that was a kind of my breaking point. And then I was trying to recover from all of that. And a couple years later, my dad unexpectedly passed away in January 2019. And that's when things got very real. And it was like, one of the things, it was in the notes that Amber posted, because this has come up a few times, my reason for being here. And when I was writing my dad's eulogy, I remembered him. I used to get really excited, like as a kid and even as an adult. Like I started playing roller derby and my dad was like, I don't know what this really is. Like, what are you talking about? And so like, I get really excited and I'm like, but all these things, and I'm telling him about it. And he's just like, whoa, this is a lot of information, person. Like what is happening? And so to get me to like come back to like the space with him and not be like super pumped about everything, he'd be like, yeah, I know. But do you like it?
Like,
He kind of said sarcastic.
A whole bunch of things that are like
Yes.
ideas.
Yeah.
But how do you feel about it? Okay. And
he'd like bring me back into the conversation. And so my dad was pretty sarcastic and kind of a joker. And so he'd be like, but do you like it? And I'd be like, obviously, I just went on and on about all of these things. And then we kind of like chuckle at each other because it was like, oh, I didn't realize that I'd gotten so amped up about whatever I was talking about. And then he would like kind of bring it back together and be like, but are you happy? And he would just kind of let that sit. Right. And like he would ask this all the time. Like anytime I got really excited, this was something that he would consistently, like it's an interaction we would consistently have, like especially after I went to college and started like doing a lot more stuff and exploring a lot more things. I always really enjoyed bringing stuff back and like sharing it with him. And so this was a consistent question he asked. So I started looking and taking that question elsewhere in my life. And I was like, when have I been happy? Where have I found that purpose in my life? And where am I not finding it right now? So I really had to look at a lot of things in my life. And it actually brought me back to, I changed some things up. I found a lot of amazing coaching tools to actually work on my own mindset about like what I was making different things in my past and in my present mean about everything, me, self-judgment, negative thoughts.
Oh, this is beautiful. So I want to go into that in a moment, but I thank you so. I love what you shared. So what I heard is for you and people watching may resonate that for some of us, and it's okay, whatever our journey is, but you had a seed with you early. It sounded like years ago, you felt called toward helping people in a certain way. And a lot of people, I think, share this story where we have a thing within us that we actually know is for us. We want to move forward on, but for a bunch of different reasons, the expected path, fear of we don't know how to make it happen. Like there's nothing wrong with not acting on it earlier in life, because a lot of times it's through all the other things that we go through that finally prepare us to step into the thing that we've intuitively known has been for us all along. And Wow. So that's what I'm hearing for you was it sounds like it started with a desire and a thing you knew was for you, and then a number of careers and journeys and personal adversity that you went through your lived experience, also your professional background and training, but then you started looking at what were the tools to help you. And so often we look at, well, what are these external tactics we can try? But it really needs to be looking inward and external. So
Yeah.
amazing. So I hope anyone, watching is hearing that if there's something on the inside that you felt is for you, look at, well, what's the next step. It doesn't mean it needs to be all figured out, but I love what's so beautifully being weaved here is a year ago this time, your next step was you were asked to speak somewhere and you did it. Even though you didn't know what your business model was or how you make money, you're like, yes, this is the thing I'm passionate about. I'm going to speak. I'm going to take the opportunity. Okay, amazing. So tell us about then some of those tools or how that framework has come into play in your work, what you started uncovering and how it helped you.
Yeah. So a lot of my work, actually, I took a class to do some of my own healing, but also to see how I could help other people. So I am a certified grief support specialist. I took a class at UW-Madison, and that along with a lot of just coaching techniques. And I kind of morphed all of this together with my background to really look at essentially reprogramming my mindset. Like that's really what I did. I started paying attention to the things that were coming up, and I realized it literally hit me like a brick wall one day after I'd started trying to pay attention to like, well, okay, what is the, not just the thought or the feeling I'm having, but like the deeper belief that is really existing in my person that kept coming up. And so I kept getting to the feeling. Sometimes I would get to a thought like, oh, I'm not good enough, or I should, all the shoulds that people have, or self-doubt, or shaming myself, trying to use shame as a motivator, like be harder on myself and then I'll be stronger. And it wasn't going well. But I was starting to uncover those deeper beliefs. And one day I realized that my lowest foundational belief, not really sure when it happened, was I am broken. Like that was it. And I just like burst out in tears, and I was like, how, why is that there? Like I really had no idea that was so embedded in like everything I was doing and saying, and how I was approaching things, how I was talking to myself, and like trying to like toughen up in ways that were not actually helping me at all and not making me tough at all. And I mean, strength is a whole thing. But once I realized that, then I got to essentially reworking that. And I was like, all right, if my belief foundationally keeps coming up as this, and it is definitely not the one I want to have, what do I want that foundation?
And how do you transform that? Yeah. Is there one takeaway that's like, is there one prompt or one thought that anyone here joining us, if they recognize that they're having foundational beliefs that they know don't support them, what's one step that they could do to start reframing that belief?
For me, what I've seen work is replace it. So for me, I wanted my foundational belief to be, what I was working for is I am strong. It was just super simple, super straightforward. And then I started looking very basically, where do I already feel strong?
Where are all those things true? Exactly. Yep. Yes.
And it just proved it. And I was like, look at all these places.
And I love that because it's getting to the heart of the belief. And then you have to choose to look for the evidence of the other thing, because we're just so programmed that sometimes we see the risk, the things that we aren't, and we have to make all the abundance 10 times bigger than the lack.
Yes.
And so so I heard you share how this came into play then in you moving forward in your purpose, which is also tied to your business. And you shared, well, you actually started to believe that it was possible for you.
Yes.
So when we started working together, we had that conversation around where we uncovered that your work is like a bridge between therapy and life coaching. And it's your own unique version of mental health coaching and resilience coaching and grief coaching. And what were some of those steps that you, when you look back to earlier this year, when you started to make that transition to say, then you decided to make the commitment to take your business to the next level, and then you started making offers and started selling things.
Mm-hmm.
So you found the belief in yourself. What else is there? Just curious for anyone else that's like on the cusp of making a change, because there's a lot that has to happen in the first few years of the business. Let's be real. But just like if you look back and you celebrate about yourself, the things that you did, what were some things that were necessary for you? You had to have the belief, but anything
Mm-hmm.
else?
I think like what we're talking about, like hiring a coach was huge. I really wasn't sure. Part of me was like, do I deserve that? Have I done enough work to earn? I'm an earner.
Oh, yeah.
Like, have I earned it? Like, am I good enough yet to move forward with this? So there was really just a lot of thought work because it kept coming up. And just continuing to show up and move forward, even if that wasn't, because and you know this, I got really hard on myself. Like, I'm not showing up enough. I'm not doing these big, big things. I'm not doing what I thought I should be doing. But for me, it had to be smaller. Like, I needed that small evidence of continuing to move forward. I found a coach, I found you, that I resonated with, that I could show up with. I found other people and community and like groups of similar people working on similar things. And in those little ways, I started to find that evidence. I created it. I created my own evidence where I was feeling validated, and I could see that I was moving forward. And I, even without external validation, like I was validating myself, like I would show up and do things and contribute, and it would just feel really good. I would feel that purpose show up again, where I would feel in flow and engaged and so excited about what I was learning and doing and how I was engaging with people and how I was helping people. And it was so all encompassing and positive
Yeah.
that, yeah, I really just kept building on that. Like, it was little by little for me. And then stuff would come up and I have to work on it, move forward a little bit more,
Yes.
come up. It's just like,
Yeah, but I think this is really important, especially, and I want to shift in a moment and really talk about how you help people. But what's really important is when we look at things like coaching, consulting, especially business coaching, and a lot of the work that I do is around really helping people that feel an element of wanting to be in their purpose in their work. There's a bazillion types of coaches, and even when you look at business coaching, but I think this hopefully will be helpful for people to just discern where they're at in their journey and which is the right type of support and coaching, because I think they all have a place and time. And in our work, we did some of the, okay, like let's talk about a financial plan and a packaging and positioning and what are you saying in your messaging. However, it's this that I supported you in and that you also support your clients in. It's around the how are you supported at your foundational core as a person, as the leader behind that brand, behind that mission. Because again, it's internal feeds the external. And I think this is just where a lot of people get hung up. Sometimes they think, well, I need one more marketing tactic. I need one more way of learning my financial sheets. Sometimes that's true. And I think, where that's true is when you feel really like empowered and you have clarity of who your clients are and why you're working with them and you have a client load. But until you get that level of flow and confidence, those other external things, they're not really ready for them. It just more adds overwhelm, right? It's this personal support and transformation. So it's beautiful how you've continued walking it for yourself. It's just, I think we all as coaches walk it for ourselves, while we're also able to serve and guide others.
yes.
And you have worked with clients this year, even as you are continuing your journey, you're supporting clients. So what are some of those ways that you've seen that people show up with? Like, what kind of challenges that you help them the most with?
I think one of the really magical things about coaching is just being able to be so present, and the whole purpose of being there is to show up with another human being and just very like, no matter what the day is or what happens, you're just there to support them. Like, you're a person in the room too, and you're working together in this very purposeful, intentional partnership to work on whatever is going on. Like, you are just there for them. And you can let everything else fall away. Like, you can just be present. And the power in being present for someone else can be so magical. Like, just that showing up and being open to whatever they bring to the table and having a conversation and talking it through with them and working it out and helping them reframe, like, just like I helped myself reframe and you helped me reframe. Like, this is coming up and this is what my brain keeps telling me. And then, but like, look at that. Like, what is really going on there? You're looking at, the feelings, the thoughts, the beliefs, like, what is happening? What is that cycle? And reframing that to be like, what else could that be? What else could you be telling yourself? What else could you be looking at? Where is the evidence to show that already? Because they're almost, I don't think I've ever had a situation where there isn't already evidence to prove the positive.
Yes. I love this. I think we are similar in how much we understand the value of coaching, mentorship, community. And you'd mentioned a little bit that you yourself have moved through so many adversities, and we all have traumas. We all have difficulties.
Yeah.
I think what's unfortunate is sometimes we think I need to fix myself and then XYZ, and then I'll move forward on my new goal, and then I'll go get help. Like, we think we have to fix a thing before getting help, when the actually allowing ourselves to receive guidance helps us through that journey, because there is no fixing. There's just what I'm hearing you talk about is being present for your life in every moment. Like, your life, that's what we're here for.
Yeah.
So do you mind sharing a bit about what some of those biggest adversities have been that now inform your ability to help others?
I mentioned a couple of them already. The miscarriages, those specifically really fed into the evidence of me being broken. Like, when your body literally like doesn't do the thing it's supposed to do, and you don't know why, you're like, I must be broken. So that was the biggest one that fed into that. So I had to reframe that a whole bunch, because I did learn that there was other reasons why that was happening. But
and that's part of your grief coaching work, right? And we've talked about that, where sometimes I think people don't realize what they've got navigated. They are moving through grief, and there is support to support you while you're simultaneously, you can be experiencing grief while you're moving forward with life. Like, it happens. There isn't one or the other always.
Yeah. Grief is not a lateral journey. It is not, okay, here's the phases of grief. I move from one, I finish that, and I go to the next one. You bounce around like a ping pong ball. Like, something will trigger something and you're right back to day one. But it gets less and less. Like, as time goes on, the word that really felt powerful for me in healing, like, from all of these losses, was integration. Like, the person who, like, resilience to me is really developing that mental, physical, emotional wellness and wholeness. And for me, it was really integrating that is like, okay, there's no going back. There isn't like, I'm going to return to how I was previously. You have to continue. Like you said, it's a journey. You're moving forward and you're integrating that strength that you just survived a loss or a trauma or something that could have been earth shattering, mind shattering, body shattering. And you survived. Like, you are here. And just that is so much proof that you are so strong and like so amazing. And there's so much there that's worth like fighting for and continuing to move forward. But integrating that as like, you've become a new person. And there's so many positives there, but it's also, yes, acknowledging that it sucks. It really sucks when stuff like that happens. Anything, and it could be anything. It can be loss. It can be, relationships. It can be life transitions. It might not even feel like this terrible thing. It could be good, but just transitioning into a new phase, a new identity, a new environment, like moving. There's still so much sadness that you kind of move through in order to grow on the other side.
Yeah. Beautiful. That's such a great way of explaining how you help people too. It's the moving through sadness while you're still growing through to the other side.
Yeah. And then in our case, we started our journey together, and I was like very motivated by my dad, and I still do that. I do ask myself, like, where am I? Am I happy? Like, what would I tell him today? So I still do revisit that as motivation, and draw on him. But also right after we started working together, we went on retreat, which was amazing, in Palm Springs. And literally the day after I got back, my brother passed away from an accidental drug overdose. So my little brother, my only sibling. So yeah, that was last March.
Yeah, this year. Yeah, literally just a few months ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And through that, I think what I have just been inspired by with you, was the ability. Well, first of all, I had that. Quite frankly, it's a privilege anytime we get to be in that experience of authenticity with someone and supporting you as your coach and as your business coach, and the way that you honored and we talked through. You had such a self-awareness about those feelings coming up around that happen with so many people where we think we're somehow missing out because a life trauma happens, something big happens, something that we need to give ourselves space and grace and heal and move through, and we all have our own what that looks like. But I think that's a spot where people can put themselves in more shame, is a thing happens and then we get upset, or we can be shameful thinking that, well, we're not keeping up on all these other things that we're supposed to do.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've had enough space for reflection around that, but I'm just curious if you can share anything from wisdom that might help others, because when I get to look back on it, I'm just so inspired by and proud of you for just your journey this year and how real you've been. You gave yourself the space you needed, and also you kept going. Yeah. And sometimes that was a day to day. This is what I need today.
Yeah.
This is what I can do today. And we just kept moving forward.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a lot. And especially, like, I feel like I wasn't really over my dad. Like, I was still like figuring that out. Like, what is our family without that person? And then now it's like, there's just two of us. Like, it's just me and my mom now.
Right.
So it was, what is reality? And who am I now? Like, I'm an only child. Like, there was lots of weird thoughts that kept popping in. And honestly, doing this work, that I've put so much time into this already, just given my history, and having done this work, it made it so much easier to survive it. I'm not saying it was easy.
Yeah.
It really wasn't, but I knew when stuff came up, I didn't feel helpless. I felt like I had tools, and I knew who and how to ask for support, and what support I needed to ask for in different moments. And that could change very quickly from moment to moment. But knowing that I had support, knowing who to reach out to, knowing how to ask for help, knowing that I had tools, and having the self-compassion, like with the mindset work and the coaching work I've done, just having the ability to just say no, be like, I'm not doing this. This is happening. This is coming up for me right now. I'm going to need a minute. I don't know how long that minute's actually going to be. It might be a day. I don't know. It might be a week. I don't know.
Yeah.
But allowing yourself that space, like having compassion for whatever you're doing that day and whatever comes up. And then just like being okay with like, all right, that came up, like the thought, am I an only child now? How do I even identify? Like, what do I say when people ask me? And just like that thought can be really overwhelming. And it, like, even now I'm like kind of getting a little teary eyed, and that would come up and I'd be like, all right, I'd pause. Pausing is very helpful all the time when stuff starts to get way intense, and just kind of let that exist and be like, that sucks that that's the situation. That sucks that that's the question.
Yeah.
And then it just floats away. Like you don't grasp on, you just let it exist. And it's like, yep, that sucks.
Yeah.
Take a breath, take some space. We're all human, and time keeps moving on, and that thought floats away. You just don't grab onto it. And there was a lot of those days where it was just like leaving a lot of space.
Yep. Yeah. And I don't know that you can see comments or the reactions, but you got some hearts and support from people.
Thank you.
Yeah. People are probably resonating, connecting. And what I hope people are also recognizing for themselves is, especially anyone, well, it comes up in, actually it applies anywhere. It applies in parenting and coaching, in our jobs.
Mm-hmm.
At least I know I've struggled with this, and a lot of clients have, where we somehow think, well, if I'm going through XYZ challenge, how does that make me? I feel like a fraud if I'm going to show up and support or coach others.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of our work, my work with across the board with people, and I think it came up somewhat for us, is actually recognizing like how this level of authenticity that you're bringing, quite frankly, is part of your gift that makes you a better coach for others. Right?
Yeah.
We're walking the walk, especially in any type of work that's coaching or transformational or leadership. That's a lot of our audience who watches these talks. And so I want to invite and encourage people to really look at where you may be somehow shaming yourself or making yourself wrong or holding yourself back from doing the work you're meant to do in the world because you somehow think you don't have it figured out enough or perfect enough. Like, we don't control what happens in our lives. We just get to control how we respond to it. And that also doesn't mean responding with force and like, I better look like I have it all together. I need to be the perfect. No. Like that is not what it is. It's exactly what you just shared around. How do you respond in modeling when you give yourself grace? How do you just show up today?
The other thing I want to share that I found, and I worked with a lot of clients on actually, and I've spoken to a lot of people about, that comes up in a lot of the presentations I do around grief, is comparative grief. It comes up so much where people are like, well, I shouldn't share, or I shouldn't feel as bad as I feel because somebody else has it worse. Or they get into this comparison. And when people get into that, when you start to get into that, like you're diminishing and devaluing your experience and theirs. Like it is okay to just have what you have and feel what you feel. And those feelings are valid. That is your reality. That is what you are feeling in whatever moment you are in. And somebody else has something else going on, and that is also valid and real and what they're experiencing, and it's okay. I think that's a big learning thing, is just people allowing themselves to show up.
It all comes back to authenticity too, right? Amazing. So let's make sure we have enough time to shift gears a little. And anyone who has questions, even on the replay, tag Callie and I will do our best to reply. So if you could, a lot of amazing things have happened this year. You're working one-on-one with clients, you provide trainings. What are ways people could work with you, and how can they find you? If they're resonating, what are those services you're offering? Who should reach out?
Yeah, so if any companies, organizations, businesses are interested in holding trainings, you can reach out to me there. My website is resilientwellnesscoaching.com. I'm sure Amber can put that in chats and places. So you can find me on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn. But yeah, feel free to reach out. I do trainings. I am hoping to expand into groups, but right now I'm currently doing just one-on-one. So we have like 3 and 6 month programs. It kind of just depends. You can always schedule a curiosity call, and we can just have 20-30 minute conversation, figure out if this is a good fit, talk about what your goals are, things like that. So that is the easiest way. And you can make reservations right on my website.
Yep. What are some of the most common questions or like challenges or issues that are present, so people can make that connection if they're experiencing? What are you working around?
So like we've been talking about a lot of grief work, and grief comes up in a lot of ways, not just death grief, but just when you're seeing that negative self-talk and you're getting really down on yourself, you're being really stressed, you're having overwhelming thoughts or anxieties. And I work with a lot of people on just like reframing a lot of that, reprogramming, just a lot of strengths-based. People are so amazingly strong and they just don't give themselves enough credit. So if you're getting into those mindsets about any of those things we talked about or anything with Amber, like we both do a lot of that stuff.
Yeah. And I think a lot of the big transformations or changes that can shake up someone's world, you're a great fit to support them through adversity and resilience and change. And then also, if we've talked about, like, there are some people who work in therapy, or they feel they're ready to move beyond therapy and shift into coaching. And you're this amazing bridge because of your background in mental health.
Yeah.
So beautiful. Okay, now how about for the people who have been thinking about growing their business, starting their business, pivoting their business? What advice do you have for them? Because it's exactly the journey you've been walking.
Yeah. I would say keep going, keep showing up, like give yourself the gift of having that evidence and that proof to develop that belief, that deep belief, because you are so much stronger and capable and you have a purpose. All the world's telling you like you should follow certain paths and there's certain expectations and all of this, but you are amazing and we all have our purpose. And if you need to find that there's so many things you can do. Like Amber has been an amazing coach. Amber also I've reached out and worked with communities that Amber has created, and I found my people who are doing similar things and we can build each other up. So just keep showing up, keep moving forward, find your evidence. I know it's there. It's probably already there. So start asking yourself, like, where are those places where you are happy, where you are finding your purpose, where you are feeling so connected, and move towards it.
I love that. Thank you. If anyone has questions who's joining us, pop them in. That was a big one for me in my journey, especially being a high achiever, that I a lot of times felt like I needed to do things on my own. And
same.
I think that's normal for a lot of us, but I have had my joy has increased so much. I've had my best growth through the last few years, where I've really leaned into community collaboration. It's so much more abundant when we learn how to be in community with others and share ideas, resources, referrals. Like I always think when you have a few different communities and if you like support from within, the amount of impact and we do have businesses, so the money factor matters. But if you're referring within your communities, and I just love that like that's thing we built, and that we have getting to collaborate with awesome people like you. And so it's important. And I think a lot of people miss out on that.
Yeah, you are not alone. There are not just like supporting people doing similar things, but just the way you can learn from other people and learn with other people can be so powerful and motivating and really boost your momentum moving forward, for sure.
And no matter where you're located, what your background, reach out to people like Callie or myself. If we're not the right fit, we have other resources and communities. And I love that too, the people anywhere in the world. And because a lot of people sometimes don't have the friend or family or peer network. And that's also the big takeaway with why coaching is so helpful. So any last words of anything you would like to send us off with? We're on Thanksgiving week. We're present to gratitude. I'm grateful for you, this awesome opportunity to support you, seeing this work blossom into the world. I'm going to stop talking though, and I'm going to let you take it out. Is there anything you want to share in closing?
I really just want people to know that you're worth it. Like whatever's coming up for you, or the doubts you have, or I shouldn't, or whatever's coming up, like do that inner work, find the support, find your people, find what works for you, make it fit like I did, and find those pieces from different places to do the healing and face whatever you need to face. Like you're so much stronger than you're probably giving yourself credit for. If anything here has resonated, then find a coach who will support that positive growth and the changes you want to make, and just keep moving forward, keep doing the work. Like it's going to be amazing. You're going to be amazing. You already are. So let other people see that.
Yes. Mic drop. doing your work. This is such an awesome, it's been a wonderful conversation with you.
Thank you.
Thank you everyone who joined us, and can't wait to see what you just keep bringing to the world.
Thank you. Thank you everybody for being here.
Thank you, Amber. Have a great rest of your day, everyone.